Hello, and a very warm welcome to another episode of The Eternal Life. Today's episode is really special and honestly a bit different from the usual. Today, we're talking about something that lives deep beneath the surface of all our ambitions, our goals, and all our healing, and that is our relationship with the divine. And I don't want to talk in a religious or preachy way, but in a real human, heart centered, heart connected way. So, you know how people talk about manifestation these days, think positive, visualize, raise your vibration, and boom, success, love, abundance, all will be yours. But what if if it was that simple, we would have all got to wherever we want to get to. What if there's a deeper intelligence behind it all, something ancient, sacred, and something way more personal? So as usual, my guest today is someone who's helped thousands of people reconnect with the sacred truth. Dena Merriam, founder of the Global Peace Initiative of Women and a lifelong student of Vedic wisdom. So, we are going to talk about divine energies today. And I get goosebumps even when I'm talking about it. But we have with us somebody who has remembrance of her time of living with these energies, with these powerful devis. I'm talking about Mata Sita, Mata Rukmani. They are avatars of the goddesses themselves, Lakshmi, Durga, Shiva, and what it really means to call on them in your daily life is what I want to touch upon today. So, without much further ado, I'd like to welcome Dena Merriam to the show. Hi, Dena. Welcome back. Welcome back to Eternal Life. It's so nice to have you here. It's an honor and a privilege to be having this conversation yet again. Namaste.
Okay, I'm happy to continue our wonderful conversations.
Thank you, Dena. Thank you. So, Dena, today I thought about, uh, what would be something of like interest to people, and something that's very, very close to my heart as well, is that people are following their own spiritual paths, doing one thing or the other, and a lot of people are seeking something. I just felt and I thought that, I got goosebumps when I had this idea that you're somebody who has remembrance of your time with very, very powerful devis, the goddesses that are that are like the goddesses in our culture. And I just wanted to know, Dina, today I just want to explore a bit with you and get your insights on, in today's time and age, is it possible for us to call upon those divine energies who were once in avatars on earth? And if so, then what is the way of going about it?
Well, that's a central question, and I think the first thing to say is that the avatars are living presences. They're not just historical figures, that they are living presences who are as active today as any time in the past. And so once we know that they are as near as ever, as near as our thought. And it's all a matter of where you put your mind. If your mind is on externalities, that's the world that you live in. If your mind is fully focused on the outer world, but with all of the masters point us to go inside. That's the message of every master of all religions, is to go inside. That's where you find the divine. The divine is within. And so today there are more practices available than in the past. In the past, these practices for accessing one's internal spiritual resources were reserved for for those serious seekers who are going to renounce the world. Today, they're available to everyone. And that's a very important point, is that all of us can have access to the practices, to the techniques that direct our attention inside, internalize our attention. So that's the first thing, is to find a path, a series of practices. And I think the second point is, which of the manifestations, the expressions of the divine speaks to you most intimately? Because we all have a long past behind us where we've had years and lifetimes of worship of a particular form of the divine, whether it's a form of the Divine Mother or Shiva or Ram or Krishna. We've all had past lifetimes where we've worshiped one particular form. So, which is the form that speaks to you in your current incarnation? That's, whether it's your guru or one of the masters living today or one of the masters who are eternal, like Krishna or Ram. They are eternal masters present for every generation. There is never a time when they are not present. The Divine Mother in a form of Sita, a form of Rukmini, Durga. I mean, there are an infinite number of forms that the divine takes to appeal to our different personalities. So finding the practices that help you shut out the external world and even for a brief time internalize your attention, and then finding the form of the divine that speaks to you, or if there is no form of the divine that speaks to you, just the abstract cosmic consciousness, the intelligence of the universe. For many people today, that might be the way.
Right. And Dina, is it also that sometimes these divine energies, if they're speaking to you, they also redirect you to another? Is there a thing like that sometimes?
And redirect you to another. Yes, I mean, a particular deity or form of the divine that one feels close, a great affinity with, might direct you toward a particular teacher today. Some people need a teacher in the physical body,
Yes.
and you know, they're there, so one can be directed toward a teacher. Some people don't need that physical uh, uh, incarnation. When I found my guru, he had already left his body, and quite a few of my friends were coming to India to find an incarnated master. Some of them went to Nimkroli Baba, others went to Sai Baba. They were going to various Babas, but I had found my guru, and it was a great sorrow for me when I was young. I mean, I was 20-year-old. It was a great sorrow for me when I was young that my guru wasn't in the physical body, but I had to go inside to find him. And he came to me in dreams, and he gave me instruction, and he left a teaching, and he left a monastic order, so there were people who could help me, give me guidance. But eventually, I said to somebody recently, actually, that I was very grateful that my guru wasn't incarnated because it forced me to find him inside. You
Wow.
can get distracted by the personality. And I know people who have been with their guru are distracted by the personality. That's what they can trying to interpret what it meant when he said this or that. But I had to find my guru inside, which is the truth. The guru, that's where you find the guru. And so it's not necessary, but I would say that my link with Yogananda is every bit as strong as it would have been had he been in the body. There's
Wow.
no difference. The only difference is that I had to find his deeper nature. I had to contact him on the higher planes.
Dina, that's so beautiful and profound. And did you ever, like, sometimes when you believe that, yes, the guru is within and there is an internal dialogue that you start to trust that, this is leading you to the path and all of that, if it starts, well, at some stage, is there also a doubt that actually is it like a real voice or something internal, the dialogue that I'm having, or is it just my mind playing some kind of some kind of tricks?
I think you can tell the difference. If you're getting, I mean, one can distinguish, and this is where discrimination comes in. I mean, one needs discrimination on the spiritual path because there are so many um, distractions, and it's very easy to get sidetracked. And so one needs to develop discernment. And, one of the things when I first started having memories, past life recall, I naturally doubted myself. And I said, how do I know this is real? How do I know I'm not imagining it? And so because I'm sort of a grounded person, I didn't just take it at face value. I checked myself out. Things that I saw, I checked them out historically to see if they were correct. I went to places that I saw. I went to places in Europe. I went to a place in Russia that I had seen in my childhood. And I only did that when I had the memories of my life just previous to this, because it was easier to check it out. Once you go back further in time, it's harder to check it out, except you can look at historical facts to see if what you're seeing is true. And I think it's the same thing when you begin to have spiritual experiences. The mind naturally questions, is this real or is this my imagination? But one has to ask, what is the imagination? Who's to say the imagination is not based on something? But I think that if I think that deep inside, if your mind is sort of just chattering or there's something real that's coming through, a real direction.
True, true, you can
And
tell.
one has to learn to listen to the voice inside. I mean, for example, my guru would never tell you if you would come to him and say, Guruji, what should I do? I
Hmm.
got this job offer. Should I take it? Should I not take it? He wouldn't say, oh, yeah, take the job offer or don't take it. He'd say, go meditate because he wanted you to access the source of wisdom within you. And so he would force you to go find the answers yourself. And, we tend to think, oh, if we had a guru who just tells us what to do with our life. Not so. All he'll do is keep reminding you, go meditate, go within, go within. And then when you sit quietly, one day you might say, yeah, I should take the job. Next day you might say, no, I shouldn't take the job. But eventually, if you really make a sincere effort and ask for guidance, you'll come to the right course. And so that's another thing that we have the ability to call upon the divine energy within to guide us. I mean, we contain we are nothing else but the divine masked in these personalities. And so the deeper you go inside, the more you can get to the essence. And all the answers, all the resources that we need are within us. It's just a matter of jetting away the external things, the mind that's distracted all the time and living in the past and future, and just to sort of still oneself. The more you can still yourself, the more you can access your deeper self.
So, the most paramount thing that's coming out of this discussion is the commitment to actually sitting down on the mat and stilling yourself, whether you're observing your breath or you're following some kind of a practice to get to that state of stillness and doing that as a committed
To
practice.
to to understand life, to understand one's purpose, why we're here, and what your particular incarnation, what are you meant to learn in this incarnation, one needs to have that time of stillness. One needs to have some kind of practice for internalizing the mind. But in addition to that, that's half the battle. In addition to that, we need serious reflection. What are the things I want to change about myself? What are the things that are problematic for me? Uh, uh, what are the qualities I want to reinforce? And so that's how we advance by stilling oneself, by turning the attention of the mind within, and then by reflecting on what are the qualities you want to work on, what are the things you need to change, and
Yeah.
then seeing how you act in the world. And that's what reflection is. You
Hmm.
say, aha, well, today I overreacted to something, either in my personal life or something in the collective, something that was happening in the world. Fear arose in me, anger arose in me. I mean, these are normal reactions to what's happening externally, whether in your personal life or on the world stage. You get angry about something, fear arises. And then you have to look at that and say, we don't want to live in a state of anger or fear. That is a complete distraction, takes one away from the path. So how do we counter that? How do we counter the negative emotions? And there are ways to counter the negative emotions. If you're angry at somebody, try to see that person suffering. Try to awaken compassion for the situation. If you're fearful, try to strengthen your trust, your faith that everything is unfolding as it should, despite how it looks externally. It's karma working itself out. So you can counter the negative emotions by strengthening the positive emotions.
Wow, beautiful. And somewhere in this discussion, Dina, you mentioned that you go introspect and figure out your purpose in life. Now, I have a bit of a doubt in that area that, when you look around in nature, yes, trees serve a certain purpose. In the ecosystem, every species is serving some part of the ecosystem. But a horse or a zebra just walking, grazing and everything, they don't really have a large, big purpose as such. They're there because they're as humans, are we over intellectualizing that we're here for a very large purpose or that we're meant to do something? Or is there really a purpose?
Well, the zebras have a purpose. They're food for the lions. The lions have to eat. Their favorite food is the zebras. And it's interesting because I've been to Africa and I've seen herds of zebras. When the zebras get too many, then the lions come in and reduce their numbers. And when the numbers go down, then the numbers of the lions go down because there's not enough food for them. So that's nature's way of balancing itself. The whole universe is constructed on the maintenance of equilibrium. What is karma? People mistakenly think of karma as a system of reward and punishment. That's a very Abrahamic view of things, a Western view of things. God the Punisher. But karma is a system of maintaining equilibrium, balancing. Whatever energies put out will, 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 will generate a reaction to balance out those energies. And it's for the purpose of learning and awakening, not punishment. We only punish ourselves, by mentally carrying guilt. And the purpose of life is to awaken, is to know ourselves as part of the cosmic intelligence, the divine reality, the ultimate reality, and to shed the limitations, the illusions that keep us bound in a very limited consciousness. So that is the grand purpose. But in addition to that, each incarnation has specific goals that we set for ourselves before we take that incarnation. It might be to work through certain karma. You've had karma with a woman who becomes your mother. You've got to work that through. You have karma with someone who becomes your mate. Those are things left over from the past. You want to work that through. You want to develop certain qualities that you're needing to develop that are lacking. So, in addition to the grander picture, but all of evolution leads to this awakening, we come into each birth with certain uh, set assignments, so to speak, that we set for ourselves. Nobody does it for us. Either to work through certain behavioral patterns, or to work through certain relationships, or aspirations that we need to achieve, to become a musician, desires from the past that we never achieved, but we're given a new opportunity to fulfill those desires. So that's why introspection helps you see what are the relationships I need to work on? What are the karmic relationships that clearly are from the past that are not resolved? And let me resolve them so that I don't carry them into the future. And then what are my deep desires that I have not yet been able to fulfill?
Right. Okay. So in very simple terms, then, Dina, can we say that it's like because I play tennis, I'm just thinking that we come into the like on the court or let's say in a on a sports field and we just play our game and everything. And then we go back and we reflect, okay, well, this shot or that shot, or I would like to improve this part of my game. And then we come back to improve that game. Is
I mean, your serve is not good. You just don't have a good serve. And so you say, okay, for the next several months, I'm going to focus on improving my serve. And you focus on that. And I think in many ways, a lifetime is like that. You want to focus on a relationship, or you want to focus on developing a quality. And life brings you opportunities to do that. And very often it takes struggle. It's not easy. It could take a lifetime to resolve a troubled relationship, because when you're younger, you're not so conscious, you're in a more reactive state. You react to external things. You've got a difficult relationship with a sibling or a parent, and you just are reactive. And then at a certain point, you say, hey, I don't want to be in this reactive. I want to heal this. I want to, it just, your sibling's jealous of you, you're jealous of your sibling, you're competitive with your sibling, whatever it is, you want out of the game. You don't want to be contributing to this kind of stressful relationship. And so you work with yourself to get out of the game, you know, to say what, where's this coming from? Why do I feel competitive? Why do I feel jealous? That takes introspection. And meditation, they go hand in hand. Meditation helps because you see the only source of happiness is truly internal, because the things that you think make you happy, you get them, and well, are you really happy? It's an internal state. And so, you know, you as you go through life and you achieve your desires, you realize, I've worked so hard to get this, but okay, I have it. So what? I mean, we know that when we want to, there's something that we want to purchase, and we think, oh, it's beyond what we can afford. If I could only have that, if I could only have that. And then finally you save enough money and you get it. Well, a few months later, it's just another thing that you have. And
Hmm.
so really looking at, desires who keep us distracted. I mean, that's sort of their purpose. They keep us distracted. They keep us engaged in the external world. And it's okay to fulfill desires, but to be aware, okay, I've got this desire, I want to get it and just be done with it. I don't want it to be distracting me anymore. That's okay to fulfill your desires, but know that that's not the source of your happiness.
Got it. Got it. Coming back to where we started, Dina, about the divine energies, I had this question in mind that what is, in your view, is the role of rituals? Like a lot of people, and even I'm conditioned into like, having the shrine and doing the ritual every day of lighting a diya and, incense and all of those things. Does that make us come closer to the divine, or is that something that is only needed? It's Is it our mental conditioning?
I think rituals are helpful for some people, but not for everybody. I think the most important thing is internalizing one's consciousness, meditation practices. But sometimes rituals lead you into a meditative state. And so it's different for everybody. Some people like small rituals, lighting a candle before meditation, offering a prayer before meditation. That helps your mind get centered. So most people have some ritual before they enter a meditative state. It's important, for example, to meditate in the same place, and if you can, around the same time, just so it becomes habit. You get your body and mind get used to doing that. That's not really a ritual, but for some people, it sort of is a ritual. That every day at the same time, you go to the same place in your home, you sit there, and then there may be a picture there, and you do a pranam, you light a candle, you light an incense. Those are rituals. And for many people, it helps them get into that space of getting ready to internalize the consciousness. For other people, they like more elaborate. They like doing a yagna.
Yeah. Yes.
I know people who really like doing a yagna, and I think that it's not necessary, but if it helps you, um, it's a very individualistic thing. So how elaborate? I know some people do elaborate rituals. I'm not one to do elaborate rituals. Rituals. I keep my rituals very simple, uh, because it's just, it's just I want to, go right into the meditation. But I know, and yet, chanting and prayers, that those are rituals that really are helpful. So I think it's very individualistic, doing rituals. I mean, the problem is that some people do rituals out of habit, and it becomes just an external
Yes.
act.
Yes.
I mean, the rituals have deep significance. The yagnas have deep significance. But if you're doing it out of habit or just because it's something you're learned to do, then is it having any effect internally? Is it really doing anything? And so I think it's good to every now and then look at the rituals that you're doing and saying, am I doing these with full attention? Am
Yes.
I am I really doing this, putting my whole heart and mind into it, so that it's helping me open more, internalize more, come closer to the divine? I mean, doing pujas to a divine image can be very beautiful, but are you really in your heart doing the pujas to the divine image?
Yes. Sometimes we get tied to the ritual and then it becomes more like, oh, I have to finish my homework before I go to school tomorrow. And you get so tied into the ritual that you've forgotten the very purpose of why you started it in the first place. Yes.
I think keeping it simple and doing it in a heartfelt way. That's how you can ensure that whatever ritual you're doing is helping you. It's bringing you closer to the divine or helping you internalize your mind, which is the goal. That's why we do the rituals that we do.
Yes. And one more thing on this subject is like going to these places which are very high, that can be felt, the energy centers where the Shakti peeths are, and all of those things. What's your, like, yes, you do feel something when you go there, but to feel closer to God, you really should, or do you have, like, what's your view on going to such places and what's the purpose of going to such places? All the
I
how
am a big believer in pilgrimages because I have never gone on a pilgrimage or visited a powerful temple where I didn't have some spiritual blessing, some spiritual benefit. It could be as simple as going to an old temple where, when I was, and it doesn't matter, I've learned to look beyond the crowds. I was in Mumbai in January and taken to the Ganapati temple for the first time. And you can imagine the crowds that were there. It didn't matter. It didn't matter at all, even though you only get a minute. And I've described in some of my books the untold story of Sita, that I did some pilgrimages, first to Ayodhya and then Vaishno Devi, and then the Raghunath Temple in Jammu. And it was at those pilgrimages places that my everything opened for me, and I was carried into another realm. And so I have never gone on a pilgrimage or a temple where I've not been blown away. But there's often a delayed reaction, and it might not happen for days, but I've learned to make the connection. When I have an experience and I say, "Oh wow, that was powerful," and then, "Oh yeah, 3 days ago, I was in India and I went to that temple." So there's often a delayed reaction. So and even if you don't feel anything, know that something has happened. I'm a very strong advocate for going to these sacred places because there's centuries and often millennium of spiritual energy that's been built up. Vaishno Devi is, they say, 1 million years old. and the Devis definitely were present there. And so you think of all that spiritual energy that's accumulated, even if you don't feel anything, something has happened. So I'm a big proponent of going to these sacred places.
Great, great. Lovely, Dina. It was once again so insightful and such kind of amazing feelings inside me just hearing all these beautiful words. Dina, is there any message for the viewers today that you'd like to share on this subject or otherwise?
I think the most important message is that we need for the it's initially when one starts to meditate, it's for one's own personal improvement, well-being, and that's very important. And that's what leads us to a practice or to a teacher or onto to take our spiritual path seriously. We feel a personal need for that. We don't have the answers. We can't find the answers in the external world. We need something more. And that's sort of the hook that the divine reels you in with, that hook of feeling that you need something more. There are answers that you need to find. But eventually, and this is something to realize, that your meditation helps the whole world, and that our spiritual efforts add to the collective spiritual efforts on the planet. And there's a lot of darkness on the planet right now. There's a lot of fear and anger and confusion. And so the more of us who can add our spiritual qualities, spiritual practices, the more we're bringing in the light and countering those negative forces. So we should take seriously, even if we spend 15 minutes in the morning, we should really take seriously because it's an aid to the whole planet. It's not just an aid to ourselves and our families, the immediate environment, which we know that's true. We help ourselves, we help our families through our practice, but to know that we are doing more than that and adding to the light in the world, I think that's really important because there's so many people say, "What can I do? What can I do about ecological destruction? What can I do?"
Yes.
And well, you can meditate
Okay, that is
because
something.
that creates a transformation. And I believe as you meditate, you develop more caring and more love. And since there's so much disregard for the environment, there has to be more regard. So if we can add that our bit of care and love for the rivers and the trees and the soil, then we're doing something. We are adding. So there's the visible work, going out and doing the visible, and then there's the invisible work. And I think it behooves us to do both, do whatever we can visibly on the physical plane, and then do whatever we can invisibly on the inner plane to spread more love and compassion in the world.
Wow, beautiful. Thank you, Dina. Thank you very much for this discussion. Really, really enjoyed it, and I hope people will find it just as treasurable. Thank you.
Until next time, be
Yes.
well.
Namaste.
Bye. Namaste.